he got asked about Tulsi Gabbard. And the reporter, the journalist said, there are foreign allies who are very nervous about sharing intelligence with her. And he said, oh, I don't know. I'm surprised to hear it. I heard that for the first time the other day. I mean, I think she's a great American. I think she's got tremendous common sense. This woman with tremendous common sense, Tulsi Gabbard.
What do you get when you mix Joe Rogan, The View, and a $50 million lawsuit? A nuclear roast with a side of legal drama that just blew the lid off mainstream media. Tulsi Gabbard didn't just walk away from the political limelight, she went full savage, slapping The View with a lawsuit so big Whoopi's wig nearly filed for witness protection. Now, Joe Rogan's got front row seats and a flamethrower of sarcasm. And trust us, he's not holding back. Grab your popcorn because this isn't just a lawsuit, it's a roast battle with legal consequences that could change everything we know about televised debate.
And we'll get to that. I want to start with something that I think is also important about facts. Because recently on your show here...
I was just going to get to that.
Good. Helping you out.
You want me to ask you the question?
No, look, some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on.
They use that.
For years, The View, that glorified group chat masquerading as a news analysis panel, has built a cottage industry out of firing off half-baked takes before the coffee even kicks in. They've thrived on controversy, transforming speculation into segment filler and outright defamation into casual banter. Somewhere along the line, they decided Tulsi Gabbard, a decorated veteran who served overseas twice, a longtime congresswoman, a woman of color, and someone who dedicated her adult life to service, was a threat to democracy, decency, and apparently even brunch. They threw everything at her. Russian asset, useful idiot, traitor. The kind of accusations that, if proven, could derail a career, if not shatter a reputation. But here's the DMN kicker. They did it with the casual confidence of people who believed their studio lights somehow offered immunity from real-world consequences.
Yeah, did you watch the episode when Tulsi Gabbard got on to defend herself and Joy Behar starts panicking, going over her notes while Tulsi's refuting everything that she said?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Behar, like, again, these people have dementia. These are people who, like, should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform. I mean, it is crazy. They have no idea. These people have never read, like, a book.
And there's versions of it.
What unfolded next wasn't just TV drama, it was a legal tactical airstrike. When Tulsi Gabbard finally got on The View to defend herself, it was less a conversation and more a public execution attempt. Joy Behar, clutching her notes like a lifeline, launched into a tirade, attempting to ambush Tulsi with a barrage of baseless accusations. But Tulsi, stone cold and surgical, stood her ground, refuting every smear with undeniable facts. You could almost feel the panic ripple through the studio as Joy realized her flimsy script was no match for a woman who actually came prepared, not with gossip, but with a record of service and truth. It was a masterclass in composure against chaos, proving that sometimes the quietest rebuttal is the loudest statement. And the internet, of course, erupted.
Pour into The View hosts like they were a sampler platter of media malpractice.
Because she is a strong woman. She is a person who served overseas twice.
I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am.
All right.
Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
I guess we're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves, but Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing.
It didn't take long for Joe Rogan to hop on this flaming bandwagon of televised recklessness and make himself comfortable. And comfortable he was, laughing his way through the mess like a guy who just watched a house of cards collapse after warning everyone the wind was coming. Rogan, with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer wrapped in podcast merch, tore into The View hosts like they were a sampler platter of media malpractice. He didn't just criticize, he eviscerated their entire operating model. he gleefully broke down how The View functions. Take a current event, add a spoonful of ignorance, stir in personal bias, and serve lukewarm to a half-asleep audience. He's been poking holes in mainstream media narratives for years, and The View is like his Mount Everest of cognitive dissonance. When he caught wind of the $50 million lawsuit, he practically needed a seatbelt to keep from falling out of his chair laughing. Finally, someone had the audacity, the receipts, and the legal ammo to challenge a show that thinks yelling louder means winning.
Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote for you.
Joy, this is why,
I mean, you're on Tucker Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace's show?
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
Well, Hillary Clinton started it, and then you shot back at her, boy. You called her the queen of warmongers.
You doubled down, unfortunately, you doubled down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier. Because of the attacks on 9/11, I enlisted in the military to go after and defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. I've served now for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East during the height of the war, where every single day I saw firsthand the terribly high human cost.
Tulsi didn't storm the set with a TikTok rant. She didn't launch a desperate press tour. She filed a lawsuit like an adult, a very expensive adult, the type of adult who has receipts, legal counsel, and enough composure to turn passive-aggressive shade into court-admissible evidence. While the hosts were still perfecting the fine art of eye rolls and interrupting each other mid-cliche, Tulsi was quietly lawyering up. This wasn't just a clapback. It was a tactical airstrike on daytime television nonsense. She didn't just come with a legal threat. She came with a statement that the sandbox rules of daytime TV don't override real-world consequences. She might not be the easiest person to casually slander, a former congresswoman, a military veteran, and someone who spent more time around actual policy than most of these hosts have spent fact-checking a script. She walked away from the traditional party line, which made her the perfect target for a media echo chamber allergic to dissent.
She might not, because she's also a Russian asset.
So really? I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous and offensive on so many levels. I've served as a member of Congress now for almost 7 years, receiving high-level national security and intelligence briefings, serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee, the Armed Services Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, working to ensure the safety and security of the people of this country. This is why I'm running for president, to continue that commitment of service.
The View continued operating as if it still existed in a consequence-free dimension where flippant remarks vanish into the ether. But here's the thing. They didn't just gossip about a celebrity outfit or make a bad joke about a pop star. They made claims that actually affect someone's livelihood and reputation. And for once, someone called their bluff. The lawsuit pulled back the curtain on how irresponsibly these platforms wield their influence. Joe Rogan, being the patron saint of independent media skeptics, turned the spotlight on the entire ecosystem. He pointed out how daytime TV shows package outrage as entertainment, fact-free speculation as courage, and clapbacks as informed debate. He joked that the show might have to hire an actual legal advisor next to their wardrobe stylist, or better yet, maybe a basic civics tutor. Because when your idea of journalism involves talking over your co-host while mispronouncing foreign policy terms, maybe you shouldn't be shocked when someone sues you for it.
I saw you on The View.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been overwhelming my past couple days. So I just went in there, did my thing. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know who Sunny Hostin was. I actually still really don't know. So I wasn't expecting necessarily for her to kind of try to ambush me in that way and attack my character in that way.
Well, it is the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean,
yeah.
it is a rabies-infested henhouse.
Rogan didn't stop at the lawsuit. He spiraled into a comedic teardown of how these shows even get made. A panel of hosts, each trying to outrage the other, armed with a stack of notes written by someone who once Googled current events during lunch. He laughed about how the show keeps pretending it's shaping national dialogue when it can barely navigate a topic without getting lost in buzzwords. Tulsi, on the other hand, was stone cold and surgical. No yelling, no dramatics, just a legal filing that turned The View's soapbox into a witness stand. She didn't just walk into the ring, she brought blueprints and started measuring for a new roof. While the show relied on noise, Tulsi relied on precision. Joe Rogan treated the whole thing like a teachable moment. And the lesson? Just because you're on television doesn't mean you're exempt from consequences. Just because you're clapping on camera doesn't make your take worth hearing. And just because you pretend to care doesn't mean you won't get sued when your pretend concern turns into a real lawsuit.
Has to be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say.
This isn't just a petty squabble between personalities. It's a cultural Rorschach test. Do you see a brave woman standing up to media bullying, or a thin-skinned ex-politician trying to cash in? Well, if you're Joe Rogan, it's definitely the former. And he's not alone. The number of people who cheered when the lawsuit hit the news could probably fill a stadium, or at least a very, very enthusiastic subreddit. What makes it even better is that The View didn't see it coming. They probably assumed their studio lighting would protect them. But it turns out courtrooms aren't lit for daytime drama. They're lit for facts, evidence, and accountability. 3 things the show seems to struggle with once the teleprompter runs out of sass.
The culture shift between right and left authoritarianism, and now people don't recognize that if you just stopped looking at it in terms of red and blue, look at the actions, whether it's war, suppression of free speech, pharmacological interventions that are mandatory, whatever it is, that used to all be associated with the authoritative right, the authoritarian right, and now those things are being embraced by the left. And I just think it's just an ideology thing, and I think we get confused and we think we're on the right side, and if it's our side that's saying this, for sure that's the right thing to do, and no one's critically thinking about this.
This lawsuit kicks open the door for every public figure who's ever been turned into a tabloid chew toy. It's a message. Go ahead, sling your sloppy accusations on national TV, but don't be surprised when someone files a lawsuit with more footnotes than your entire research team managed to read. For far too long, media personalities have lived in this magical world where being wrong doesn't come with a receipt, only ratings. Now, that receipt is itemized, notarized, and attached to a $50 million price tag. And Rogan, he's loving every second. This is the man who built his empire by actually listening to people longer than 3 minutes. Watching The View scramble under legal scrutiny must feel like watching an improv troupe get audited. The idea that they might need a fact checker, or even anyone, who finished a Wikipedia article before going live, it's almost too good.
Show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in, and they always bring on a token conservative woman and they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre show.
The broader message here is devastatingly simple. Smear campaigns aren't just annoying background noise anymore. They're lawsuits waiting to happen. We've reached the point where saying something recklessly false on TV isn't just ethically gross, it's financially stupid, especially when the person you're attacking happens to keep receipts like a tax auditor with a grudge. So yes, this lawsuit is cultural dynamite. It's turning the talk show table into a courtroom, the gossip segment into Exhibit A, and the coffee mug into a liability hazard. Because when platforms this loud decide to act this reckless, someone was bound to push back. And Tulsi Gabbard just made sure they heard it all the way in the green room.
Huge.
Worried about losing your job, and you're worried about podcasts taking over, and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won, and this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons.
Tulsi's play wasn't just legal, it was symbolic. And Joe Rogan was more than happy to be the hype man for that message, using his platform to mock, dissect, and dance on the collapsing credibility of The View, like a man who's been waiting for this moment since 2016. As for The View, they're stuck in the awkward space between a spin cycle and a subpoena. No witty segment can spin this into a feel-good story. No guest appearance from a pop star can distract from the court filings, and no amount of applause can drown out the sound of accountability knocking. Joe Rogan celebrated it not as an isolated lawsuit, but as a cultural correction. And the best part? He didn't even have to raise his voice. He just laughed, pointed, and let the truth do its own damage. So, Here we are. Tulsi Gabbard filed the paperwork. Joe Rogan threw the popcorn. And The View? Well, they might want to view their legal options. Turns out the real daytime drama isn't on TV anymore. It's in court.